The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Nick Eatman, Brian Broaddus, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Wednesday, October 19th, 2022, Season 18, Episode number 54. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We're live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We're presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Today we talk Detroit offense versus Dallas defense. Nick, I heard you on the radio this morning mentioning that you think this is going to be a tough game for the Cowboys. I do too. I think it's going to be a challenge for them. I think this is a tough matchup. We'll get into some of those things because I think it starts with the fact that starts with their offense versus the Dallas defense. We'll get into some questions from some fans later in the show. If you guys want to call us, you can call us 888-855-2297. Again, 888-855-2297. Let's start first with the Detroit offense versus Dallas defense. Brian, let's start where we normally start and give us the big picture. What's the best thing that this offense does?
They run the ball. They're really good at running the ball, too. And they make it hard on you to run the ball because of the way they're a gap scheme team. And when I mean gap scheme is that they're going to – the direction that they're going to run the ball to, they step hard that way. And then if you're in that gap, if it's a down lineman, linebacker, they come off. They actually – it's like five guys coming off together. They all step together, and you actually see depth from the guards. They take a step back, and then they go forward. And so what happens is they get that extra little bit of push and a little bit of leverage there. But they're going to use all their running backs in the game. That's something that they've dealt a little bit right now with Swift and dealing with a shoulder problem. But Williams, Reynolds, right? I mean, yeah, they're going to keep rotating these backs in there. And we all kind of understand what Jared Goff is as a passer. We all understand, there's some hit and miss with him. I kind of feel like their best player of the receivers would be St. Brown, number 14. He's one of those guys. He's been dealing with a little bit of some ailments, but he looks like that he's going to be ready to go after the off week. They like to throw him the ball in space. They put him in the slot. They play him outside. They just kind of move him all over the formation. He could be a difficult guy to deal with in that regard because they're trying to chase him. He's a really good blocker at the point of attack for a smaller guy. Gets in there and does his thing there. They've got a really good tight end in T.J. Hawkinson that can catch the football. He's a good blocker as well. So on offense, they've got some really good players at certain positions. Penny Sewell, the right tackle, was one of the top guys in the draft coming out in 2021. He's kind of looked like he's found himself a little bit after some struggles that he's had earlier. Taylor Decker on the other side, I think, is a little bit of a weaker guy that you can kind of go after. Frank Ragnow in the middle center is as tough as they come. He's a big part of what they do when they run the football. But, yeah, it's going to be one of those difficult games because they've got weapons at all levels. But the fact of the matter is they're a power gap run scheme. And they take the ball and run downhill hard at you. So I think that's the thing that the Cowboys – I think the tone all week is going to be about the physicality in which the Lions play with running the football. They score a lot of points. I think they're second in the league in points, but they give up a lot of points on defense too. That's kind of been the balance with them. They build leads and then can't hold on. But it's a good offensive team when it comes to how they play with the physicality.
Where are they most vulnerable?
I think the weakness with them would be their defense. Really, no. When you look at the offense, I said Taylor Decker, the left tackle, would be a little bit of a problem. Dan Skipper has kind of stepped in and played for them at guard. And done a really good job
from Cowboys. Huh?
Yeah, and he's done a nice job for them. The weakness might be at the quarterback spot, and the weakness when I mean that is that when teams find ways to force him to have to throw on the move, he's not as good. He's one of those guys that loves to get the snap, loves to take the ball and get rid of it. And there's times where he'll throw the ball short of where he needs to go. So that's it's about, I think it's more about trying to make him throw the football. But they've got some guys, like I said, with St. Brown, with Reynolds, and then with Hawkinson, that they can make plays on the outside. But it's the quarterback might be the weakest part of their offense.
So I hear everything you're saying, and we know that the running defense, that's the Cowboys' weakest spot on the defense. But looking at just kind of how their season has gone, I mean, right now they have only won one game.
They have
in the whole season. The other games, I mean, they've been pretty competitive in that part of, like, they end up being very close games.
Right.
Except for the last one they had prior to the bye week, that was against the Patriots, and they
were bad against the Patriots.
That was 0-0. They scored 0 points.
Right.
But so my point here is, like, I hear, for example, I know Nick on the show has mentioned, like, this is gonna be a tough game, and I hear everything you just said, but then you look at the results of what their season has been so far. Why would this game be so tough rather than you going in to this weekend, AT&T Stadium at home, maybe possibly getting your quarterback back, and then being a game that is more like, oh, the Cowboys got this for sure?
Yeah, you don't know how your quarterback's going to play. That's the biggest question you have right now. Your quarterback, the last time you saw him, played really badly in that game against Tampa. And, is there going to be rust? Is there going to be issues there? The thing about to me, that what makes the Lions, you know what you're talking about, their record is what it is. Their defense has been the problem. Their defense hasn't held up their end of the bargain. This team right here, probably in my opinion, could have had 2 more wins. The Patriot game was bad. Patriots had a good plan. They turned over the ball in the Patriot game. They had a scoop and score that went against them in this game. That's what I was talking about, the quarterback. He's the one, though, for the Lions, I think, that gives them that causes some of their issues. But their defense is not good enough, But is your offense good enough? That's going to be the question that you're going to have. You're going to have to put up some points, because if they get into a running game with you, they can run you off the field with the way that they run the football. So that's the thing that I worry about is, are you going to have problems with your quarterback? Are you going to get 3 and outs? Are you going to be in situations where you can't control their running game? I think that's why it's going to be close. I wouldn't look at their record. I would say what I see is that they run the ball and score points on everybody they play. Their defense doesn't do a good enough job.
Yeah, here's one other thing to consider. The very best thing that Dallas's defense does is what?
Pressure.
Sacking the quarterback.
They are
number one. They are number 1 in the league in giving up sacks. They only have given up 7 this season, right? And then what does this defense do worst?
Running game.
Stop the run. This is the number 2 team in the league in yards per rush attempt. So you think about it from that perspective, this is not a good matchup for the Cowboys. Regardless of what you think of the team and their personnel or whatever, this is just not a good matchup. What they do really well is exactly what the Cowboys don't do so well. And where the Cowboys are great, that's an area that they've – and it could be one of those situations where you could say, well, maybe the Cowboys can get pass rush on them and get sacks on them. Maybe they're just better. But my thought would be the reason why they don't get a lot of sacks is because they run the ball, and they probably get the ball out really quick.
They do.
You combine those 2 things, it negates a pass rush, right? So you just think about it. It's just a bad matchup for the Cowboys.
This quarterback doesn't take sacks, but what you have to do is if you can make him throw on the move, he will throw the ball away. So you get off the field. He will not attack, like on third downs and stuff. He doesn't always attack past the sticks. He's like, he'll check it down, and then they get tackled. And then you're like, well, why did he not try? Why did he not try? He's going to get rid of the ball. He does not want to keep.
He doesn't use his feet a lot.
He's not a big runner guy. No,
okay.
He's not. Not just what you played, and not what you played with the Giants and people like that. That their quarterbacks can run a little bit.
Nick, if you had to identify, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking they lost a playoff game against the Rams because he did get a rollout. I still can't believe they missed that tackle on the Rams. With Jared Goff. They were trying to get back in the game. It was like 3rd and 8, and he got him on a bootleg. I know
that was a bad night all around.
It was a bad night. It was but it was just one of those things. Like, yeah, he's not a runner, and he's not still. And that was 4 years ago. He still doesn't do that, but that just makes that game even more sickening because they could have stopped him there. It would have been fun to see what happens after that.
I heard McCarthy I think it was yesterday. It might have been Monday. He said that this was the outside of the Giant game, which they were equal, worst missed tackles, most missed tackles that they've had this season. Do you think that's something that is a trend at this point because it's now happened in 2 games, or do you think that's something that there were unique circumstances in those games that maybe lent itself to them having so many missed tackles?
Probably your most athletic quarterbacks that you faced, and I don't know that those were the guys that they were missing tackles on, but just maybe the way they play because of that gets them out of position more. I don't think those are your 2 best backs you faced, Barkley and Miles Sanders. I mean, they're up there, but I mean, you can make a case for Mixon, you make a case for Fournette. He had a hard.
Mixon didn't do much of anything in that game. Yeah,
no,
55 yards, I think.
Yeah,
or something like that.
I just think it's just a combination of things as well. I mean, this is not a game where, I agree with Brian. I mean, the quarterback, you can't have a slow start in this game. I think if you can get to them first and then make them more into a passing team, that's going to be tough. But if you have a slow start and they get the lead and Swift is back and it's one of those places that teams don't play a lot, and it always reminds me of Notre Dame. It's like, you may not be good enough to withstand what the other team is thinking when they come in. They come in here, Dan Campbell will have them ready, big place, AT&T Stadium, and they'll be fired up ready to go for a noon kickoff. Will the Cowboys be able to match it early? And if so, what happens when it gets into a running game attack?
Do they make a lot of big plays?
Running the ball, they do.
But not passing or anything?
The passing plays they make that are bigger, like they have a DJ Chark plays for them too. Mm-hmm. He's been banged up a little bit.
Good player.
If you go back and watch when they played Minnesota in week 3, it's the crossing routes. It's the things. It's like Minnesota did a poor job of when the ball was thrown short and not tackling. And so with St. Brown, he can run. I mean, you put the ball in his hands, he's a little bit like a running back. Chark's the same way. Josh Reynolds is not as fast. He's a taller guy, but he can catch the ball down the field. It's not that the quarterback's not willing to do it, though. There's times where he just, you watch him and the routes open up and you're going, why did you throw it there? No, he throws the ball short a lot of the times, and then hopes for the best for some of these plays. But St. Brown can run and Chark can run if you throw the ball to him down the field. I mean, I think that's something you have to work. And Hawkinson, the tight end, is an athlete that they flex out. He'll play in the slot. They'll move him around and stuff like that. He's a really good player when they get down in the red zone and stuff because he has a feel for how to make plays down there.
Let's take our first break. When we come back, I want to dive a little bit into Micah Parsons and what we saw this last weekend and maybe what that means this coming weekend as well as for future games. We'll do that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys? Jack Black. Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Home Ownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America N.A. Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
Back to the break.
If you want to hear some live music, head to the Star in Frisco on Wednesday, October 26th for a brand new monthly concert series called Sounds of the Star, featuring spectacular Southern soul band Prophets and Outlaws. The concert kicks off at 7 p.m., is free and open to the public. For more info, visit thestarinfrisco.com.
Welcome back to the second segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. The segment brought to you by blockchain.com. Let's talk about Micah Parsons. And this last game, it did appear to me, and I'd love to hear your perspectives, appeared to me that he spent more time at linebacker than we'd seen him in the first 5 games. It seemed like the first 5 games he was legitimately a defensive end. But it seemed like they played him more at linebacker. What did you guys see from how they deployed Micah Parsons in this game that may have been different?
I think you said it. I mean, he played more linebacker. They probably weren't sure what the matchup was going to look like with either one of the tackles, and they didn't really rush him more until Lane Johnson, it seemed like when Lane Johnson got out of the game, they rushed him a little bit more. But yeah, he played a lot of linebacker. He was in a lot of coverage. You know, he had more tackles in this game than I think he's had, which isn't
7. Yeah,
which means he played more linebacker, and you know it's harder to get tackles when you're a defensive end. So
yeah, I think the thing with Micah is that these RPO offenses and stuff like that. He's such a weapon, you know, when it's, to me, I'm Dan Quinn now. I just tell him, listen, don't worry about your assignment. Just go. Just go, whatever, just gamble a little bit here. If you feel like you need to crash that thing, if you need to feel like you need to, you need to take the bag, whatever you have to do, don't worry about it. Because I think what happens with Micah, I think you could frustrate him. And I think mentally he plays frustrated. And when he plays frustrated, I don't think he's very good. I think it's, to me, the less he has to think about what he's doing, listen, you see ball, go get ball, that kind of thing. And to me, that's kind of where I think that they need to, they're asking him, okay, you're going to play the read, you're going to play the quarterback, where are you going to play? Don't do that anymore. Just you go, we'll play the back end behind you, we'll figure out a way to do it. And so to me, the less he has to think, I think this was one of those games where you saw him have to think too much. And I think that affected the way he played.
Yeah, you would. I mean, I don't want to compare him to a child, but that's kind of the comparison I got because I have a kid of my own. But it's just kind of like when you're throwing a fit, that kind of frustration, the one you were talking about, you saw it a lot in multiple occasions during the game last week, where something happened in the play or whatever, and you see him just kind of just being frustrated about it and complaining. It's similar to like Kevonta Turpin too. He throws kind of a little fit there, and from up top you see them so small, and you just look like a little kid just kind of complaining about it. But to Brian's point, that's a great point, because I think you definitely saw it in the way he was playing, his demeanor, his behavior, just kind of. You saw he was off his game, and it just wasn't going his way. He was getting frustrated, too, with the way his teammates were playing around him. So you need to be able to free him up, and that's kind of hard to do because
it is
against a team like that that's doing those things that you're not good against. How do you, what
you
can
don't see it very often. You don't see that RPO offense very often. And, maybe this is a way, and that's why I asked the question about do you think that teams are going to just have – I mean, the Lions run some RPO stuff. It's just the quarterback is not –
about the quarterback.
The quarterback's not the one that's going – it's going to like Cooper Rush running RPO. It's going to be Okay, is he going to pull? More likely not, he's going to hand it off. He's not going to run with the ball. The guy with the Eagles is going to run with the ball. He's going to pull it and run with the ball. And so to me, and it's I could see Micah's right though. The guys around him, they didn't play their best game defensively. They really, really didn't. But to me, it's more about if I'm Dan Quinn, I'm like, listen, we just got to let him go. We just got to, whatever we have to do is say, make him this. Let him be this. Let's not make him have to play a two-way go here, and then he looks bad. Everybody's like going, oh, look, this is how you stop Micah Parsons, kind of a thing. So whatever it is to not have to make him think, and it's not because he's not capable of thinking. He's just a better player when he goes and plays, and that's why he's a good pass rusher, because he just goes and rushes. He wins with power, he wins with quickness, he wins with strength, ability, all that stuff. That's how he wins.
When you guys look at the first 6 games of this season, can you pinpoint one thing or a couple things that you think are the problem with them when it comes to the run defense? Or do you think every game has been a different thing that they haven't done well? Because I know we've talked about at times the defensive ends weren't being able to kind of maintain the edge. There have been other games like this game where RPO is a problem for them. Can you pinpoint it to something, or is it just a different thing every week?
Yeah, it does seem like a different thing. This last one was different. Where do they rank in rush defense? Do we have that?
Because go ahead and talk.
I just don't. I don't know. I don't feel like it's a massive problem. I don't. I mean, it was in this game. I mean,
3.5 yards a carry, and the long run where one was on 3rd and 18 by the quarterback. The other one was on the first play of the drive for 13 yards that they killed the game on.
Yeah.
But it was 5, it was 6, it was 4, it was 1, it was 2, it was 1. There was a lot of that going on. They were committed to running the football. They were. Yeah. They knew that Jack Driscoll, that when Jack Driscoll went in the game, that was it. That was like, listen, we can't let this guy block against Micah Parsons. If we drop back and throw the ball here, we're in trouble. Yeah. The thing I think, Derek, to me, is it scheme? No. Is it the players themselves? I think it's more than that, or like that, because to me, when I watch, and I love Dorrance Armstrong. I mean, I've gone on several platforms talking about Dorrance Armstrong. Even for the season, I thought, man, this guy's got to go. He's great. Where Dorrance Armstrong is good is rushing the passer, twist stunts, things like that, wide rush, anything to do when it came to rushing the passer and being athletic. He's not a great run player. He's just not. He gets hooked. He gets washed. And then all of a sudden you get guys that we talk about the corners playing too wide when the ball comes to, when it comes to the outside. Now the inside stuff though too is those defensive tackles, Osa, Bohanna, those guys, Gallimore, those guys have got to do a little bit better job too when that ball comes inside.
Is Watkins your best defensive defender, run defender in the middle?
He had no stats in the game the other day, and all of a sudden it was like he was the best player physically at the point of attack. Right. He was getting off blocks, and it was helping other people around him. But they've struggled at linebacker some too with Leighton Vander Esch. Vander Esch has been very good at times, and then he's been very bad. But you could watch NFL games for everybody and see linebacker play that's not great every single snap. Yeah. But I think the coach has done a great job of putting them in position to make plays. Have you physically been able to stand up and play the run like you need to play a run? At times, they have not.
Yeah, to answer your question, Nick, they are 11th right now in rush yards allowed per attempt, because I'd rather do that than total yards, because some teams play more games than others. But if you look at yards per attempt, they're 11th right now in how many yards they give up per attempt at 4.5. Yeah. That's not a huge problem, but I will tell you this. The way I look at it is what makes it more of a huge problem for me is at moments, and we saw it in this last game, at moments when they need to stop the run, I don't know that they've been as successful as I need to.
No, you're right about that. I mean, the Eagles, you can't argue that one. Yeah. I also think it's a style of play that they're playing that they don't want to give up big plays.
True.
And I think the more you let these quarterbacks get on the field and then expose them to penalties and then passing, if they just keep going methodically down the field, they're going to make a mistake. give the Eagles credit for not making it on that last.
And that's
drive.
the key, right? If you run up against a team
Washington
that's
was
clean,
running it, and then they were to go back.
Yeah,
and then they have to throw, and they're off the field.
And there's a reason why they're 2-4, right? And so that's the point. Like if you run up against a team that has that kind of discipline that can actually make those kinds of drives, that becomes a bit of a challenge.
It also helps when you have a lead. You know, you can get teams out of running the football if you've got a lead. Fine, run the ball. That's great. Kill, the Commanders, whoever. Run the ball and it take 8 minutes off the clock. I don't care. You're not going to get 2 more possessions out of this game. So that's where Dak comes in. That's where all of a sudden, if you find a way to put the Lions, behind in this game, double digits. Now, all of a sudden, handing the ball to Swift and Williams and Reynolds is not the plan.
Right.
It's, okay, now you can sick the rush on these guys, and let's see if you can pass block.
When talking about the run defense, something that seems simple to me, and I don't want to put everything on the linebackers because it's everybody. You got to improve. Everybody needs to do better when it comes to that. But I often feel that a lot of the time, especially when they're running inside, you get it's the linebackers' problem where they are just not able to track the ball properly and react quick enough to make that cut and go this way or that way and follow the ball. And that allows them to run a little bit more, and then you don't get there as fast as you need to. And I think that's an area that, I'm no coach or anything, but watching from upstairs, it just seems like it's the most fixable or quick fix that you could possibly work on. Is just positioning the linebackers better and just having them track the ball, react a lot quicker to that. Because, like I said, even last week, there's a play that still bugs me. It's Leighton Vander Esch. The Eagles are running through the middle. The middle is completely open. You got a nice hole there, and then Vander Esch is over here. He's looking at kind of like the mess that's going on to his right, and he doesn't even realize that the running back is running right there. And then by the time, it's too late. So that's the thing that
you're
I
absolutely
think
right.
The linebackers just need to have a better vision.
No, and it might be something to do with your scheme, because how Dan is not playing with 3 linebackers. It might be a little bit, teams are getting you into your sub packages, your nickel packages, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, if you're not going to put a legitimate linebacker on the field, we'll run the football.
Right.
We'll say, okay, you could put Wilson down there, and if Wilson misses tackles, it looks really bad. If you put Kearse down there and he misses tackles, it's really bad. But you're saying, you know what, we're going to play with a light box because of the light box, and I mean in a way of lighter players. That's the thing that they run into as well. Like, you're going to pull a safety down in the box. Sure, we'll run the ball. Let's see you deal with that. Let's see you deal. We were talking with Barry Church about that, playing with the light box. He goes, as a safety, you do not want to play linebacker in this league. As a safety, you don't. But that's what Dan Quinn, that's what we always praise Dan Quinn. My gosh, look what he's getting out of Kearse. Look, and it's working. Look what they're doing. Yeah, but to a point, you're putting lighter players in position.
Something's going to give.
But you're right about Vander Esch, because on the Sanders touchdown run, you can watch it clear as day. You're in a situation where, the ball's running up inside, and he jumps from the B gap where he's supposed to be to the A gap, and now the ball's in the B gap for a touchdown.
Yep.
If only there was a linebacker who's a rookie who looks just like a linebacker that's maybe ready to play. That would be, I know there's a lot asking of a rookie, but I would love to see if he's healthy and he looks like he's getting close. Is Damone Clark?
He's played well at LSU.
I want to see him, because there's no mistaking. Well, there is a mistaking with him being a linebacker, because he looks like a defensive end in a tackle. He's a big guy that can run. If he's cleared to play, though, I'm anxious to see how they use him there.
Let me ask you this question. Would you guys consider this week, and I think that's a great point, Nick, when he's ready.
When he's ready.
Obviously, that probably isn't going to happen this week, I don't think. Maybe not. Maybe it is.
They started his window for a reason.
Yeah,
they started his 21-day window.
Is this the third week, by the way?
I think it is.
Yeah,
so
this is where we're at the point where it could be this week.
He can play at any time.
But I'm saying, even at that, he didn't play. He didn't have a training camp. My suspicion is you're not going to go into a game at this point and put him out there for a substantial number of
probably
reps,
special teams to
right?
start.
Yeah. So that being said, would you guys consider in a game like this where you're facing a team that the best thing they do is run the ball?
They do.
Would you consider, hey, I am going to line up in a conventional 4-3 defense. I'm putting 3 linebackers on the field. One of those linebackers will be Micah Parsons, and I'm going to get a heavy front four, and I'm going to stop the run. Would you go that far? If you were Dan Quinn, would you go that far away from what you've been doing all season because you think this matchup may require it?
If you feel good enough about covering Chark, Reynolds, and St. Brown, go for it.
Yeah.
Or putting some or
Hawkinson.
Do any of those guys scare you enough where you feel like I got to give them more?
St. Brown scares me a little bit just because of how shifty he is, and you could and that's an easy throw and then a run.
Yeah,
I think that Micah needs to be a little bit more in the middle of the field. If you're going to play him at linebacker, I'd like to see him some in the middle because I think he can rush from there as well. I really feel like when he lines up wide on the outside and there's Tank right there, I mean, it's real easy. If I don't know about you, but I'm going to go over here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's here, I'm going to go here.
Flip.
Yeah. I mean,
well, running the ball at Armstrong is not a bad proposition.
Formation.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we got some fan questions. I do have one question for you guys, though, once we come back from break. Yesterday, I asked you if you felt different about this team coming off that last game. I want to ask you specific to the defense because this is the first game where we've seen them give up as many points as they gave up. I want to ask you if you guys have a different opinion of the defense now following that game last weekend. We'll talk about that when we come back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
The season is finally here. For months, we've been gearing up to win. Now it's time for the team that performs on any field, United Ag and Turf. With John Deere zero turns for mowing, compact tractors for loading, mini excavators for digging, Gator utility vehicles for hauling, implements for grading, hay tools for baling. United Ag and Turf, for winning. The official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com for more.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
This week! Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is.
It's a non-fungible token. Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Homeownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America N.A. Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
Back to the break.
Head to AT&T Stadium on Saturday, October 22nd. That's this Saturday to experience Rally Day presented by SeatGeek. Get ready to cheer on your Cowboys with tours of AT&T Stadium, ticket giveaways, games, inflatables, and more. Visit attstadium.com/rallydays for tickets and more information.
Welcome back. Final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. All right, so here we go. This is the question I have for you guys. You look at this defense, and in this last weekend, not their best performance. Still some things that were good. I don't want to say they weren't good because they had 4 sacks. I mean, that's a good day for any defense, but just not as good as what we've grown accustomed to seeing them do. Do you guys have a different opinion of this defense coming out of the Philadelphia game than you had going in?
Not really. I mean, I really don't. I think that this is a really good defense, and I think that defense played well enough to win the game. I really do. I mean, the Cowboys gave them more possessions than they should have had, and a favorable field position throughout the game there. You play that again, give offense. I mean, how much better do you think Dak is than Cooper Rush? I mean, is he when he's healthy, is he that much better where he can get 3 to 4 more first downs? 3 or 4 more first downs a game is maybe it's maybe 7 points more, and it may be 3 points less in that game. I mean, that's just a 10-point swing, and you lost by 9. I know that's too simple, but I'm just saying, just being a little bit more efficient on offense, which I think that's what we're expecting, can help the defense. I think they had chances to win the game regardless.
If they don't tackle well, man, that's a problem. Because that's the thing about it. This defense has done a great job when it comes to pressure. They've been thrown in some terrible situations too this year. Bad punts, turnovers. They've come up aces, and you got to give them a lot of credit for that. But if they don't, they just needed one more stop, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you're thinking in yourself, it's like, if they just get one more stop, this game could go the other way. You could steal one here with your quarterback that is done well. He's done well, but defensively, the thing about it is it's going to be this tackling stuff. Because they can't go into these games and give up, especially big games, and tackle as poorly as they did in that one. Yep. Because that's the thing. We could talk about the run defense and all that. I think they can work all that out, but. Man, if they're going to tackle poorly, then they're going to be caught in some games where they're not going to be good enough to win.
Yeah, I don't think any differently about this defense either. I think that everyone has a bad day, and they just had a bad day in the aspect that I don't think, it's one thing watching tape, looking at opposing teams and all that. It's another thing getting in the game, playing against all that, and realizing, oh, crap, okay, this is all different. And I do think they started out the game not being ready for that kind of game, but they did improve as when they came back in the second half of the game. You saw the difference, and maybe it was on the Eagles. You talked about that, Brian, how the Eagles kind of calmed down,
the stall,
yeah, and all that. But I think I do give them credit for kind of readjusting and just playing better in that second half. I just think it was more of a thing of them not realizing maybe how difficult it was actually going to be. It's just, how can you really prepare for that? You're not going to be competing in practice at that same level. You don't know exactly what the Eagles were going to, you do know, but it's just being in there and actually playing in that way that is just kind of what I think threw them off in that way. But I think this is something that they learn from it, and they're going to improve.
I think you'll think better of this defense if Dak Prescott comes back and plays really well in the second half of the season. Because it'll be a lot different. It'll be like, okay, now you're back to doing the things that you're capable of doing, the pressure, the sacks, the forcing the turnovers, things like that.
But I think that's the key, and that's why I think differently of this defense right now. And that's not to say I don't think they're a good defense. I really think they're a good defense. I started to let myself believe that maybe they could be a great defense. And what I mean by great defense is like a shutdown defense. You get them in situations where the game is in their hands. It's you can count it up. It's done, right? It's kind of like those quarterbacks like Brady. You give him 2 minutes left and he needs a score to win. Everybody is packing up their stuff okay, they're going to win this game.
Yeah.
It's that kind of
thing. You gave him too much time.
Yeah, exactly. You gave him too much time. That's what you're thinking about as you score with 2 minutes left. Yeah. I was starting to let myself believe that maybe this defense was that, and maybe they still may be. But right now, there is doubt in my mind, and the doubt comes in the fact that not just that they allowed that game at that moment, that they couldn't seize the moment, but it's how they couldn't seize the moment. It was with that one thing that I think. And again, I'm not speaking for you guys. One thing I think has been their Achilles heel throughout the season, which is stopping the run.
Right.
And so for me, I now have a different opinion of them. Now, I agree with you. Dak comes back. Dak scores more points with the offense. Now they don't get exposed, right? The area where they may not be as strong doesn't get exposed as often because you put teams in situations where they can't run the ball, and now it makes them look even better. But that does still concern me, and certainly would concern me once you get to the playoffs and you're playing better teams that can score more points. Now I'm a little bit concerned about that until they show me consistently they can stop the run in those kind of situations.
Let me ask you this. If you take away their own mistakes as far as the penalties that they've created in that game, which were quite a few, do you think differently? Do you go back to changing your opinion of thinking, take away the run? Because I think they did enough, but where they screwed up, in my opinion, is just shooting themselves in the foot, making their own mistakes. You take that away, and I think you could have very much won this game against the Eagles. I don't know what you guys think of that, but I just think that was the biggest thing as far as the defense making those kind of mistakes. And other than that, they, to me,
as long as those mistakes are not normal. Like if you say, like last year's team, if you take away the penalties, but you don't take away the penalties because that's who they are. If we haven't seen that that's who they are just yet. But I don't have a huge problem with I mean, yeah, you wanted to get off the field and win the game. I get it. You get off the field there, you probably do win the game. But, you're asking your defense to shut out the Eagles in the second half. They're a run team. You're down 20-3. You're asking them to shut them out. They didn't. They gave up 6 points. That was still a very good second half defense for the Cowboys, even with that drive. They were balling out, and they gave that offense a chance to finally get going. So they didn't lose. To me, they didn't lose because of defense. They lost because of their offense.
No, I get that,
and I know
I'm not saying
you're saying they're not
the
great.
reason why. What I'm saying is that drive, and I'm looking, and even at that drive, Amber, when you talk about the mistakes, they didn't have any penalties on that drive. That was a clean drive. Both teams, neither team had penalties that drive. It was strong against strong. Game's on the line. It's a 3-point game. And Philly won. Like Philly said, we are driving this ball right down your throat, and Dallas couldn't stop it. That's the part that made me think a little bit different again about this defense. Again, I'm not saying they're bad. Yeah. I'm saying that took them from being I can count on them to dominate in the moments they have to dominate to a defense that's pretty good, and they're really good, but I don't know if I can count them in all those situations against good teams.
It's funny, though. I think when people compare great defenses, they always talk about the 85 Bears. They always talk about
Is that where y'all going?
If you say what I think you're going to say, go ahead.
No, this is more like the 2006 Bears. If you're thinking about teams that it was a Super Bowl defense, but they had Rex Grossman playing quarterback. It was that kind of. But if you go back and look, they were third in points against, fifth in yards. They were good. They were first in turnovers. They were second in first down. They were, passing. They were 11th in yards. There were things about that defense. It was a defense that got to the Super Bowl, but it wasn't one of these like when you say
it wasn't one of the great defenses of all time.
Yeah, you always compare these. They say, "Wow, this could have been like the 85 Bears."
It wasn't the 2001 Ravens.
No, that's what I'm saying.
2000 Ravens or 2001 Bucks.
It's the 2006 Bears. It's good enough to get to the Super Bowl, and you still got some kind of things along the way, and you're playing with a quarterback. That's kind of where, if you ask me what this defense is.
Thank you. That's a good one. That's a good comparison.
Well, I was going to say, it was funny you said 85 Bears because I was going to say, in 1985, the Bears were, I don't know, like 10-0, 11-0. And they're recording the Super Bowl Shuffle song and all that stuff. And
the Dolphins. You were doing it. I was doing it.
Oh yeah. Then they go. I can do a couple verses myself.
I'm sure you can.
But
shuffling.
Yeah. They call me Sweetness. I like to dance. That was mine. Anyways, they got beat on Monday night by the Dolphins. 38-24 or something like that. Marino was just dicing them up that night. And, they came back on the Bear Break the next morning, and they were like, I don't know about this defense. And
Merrick Eagleton.
And rightfully so. But they came back and, they didn't lose again. And they went and they won the Super Bowl.
Which, again, I'm allowing for the fact that this is only, like we said earlier this week, like sports is fluid. Right now, I got to be honest, I have some doubts in the back of my mind. That doesn't mean that you give me a few more games that they can answer those doubts, and it's like, yeah, we fixed that. That's not a problem for us anymore.
No, don't be jumping back in the wagon. No.
It's not about it's sports is fluid. Like, it changes. Every time you see a team play, you can have a different opinion of them.
I think I give Eagles credit for going and getting it together in the second half when they hadn't yet. They figured it out and they won. They needed to go put points on it and close the game out, and they did that. And I think they're going to be a good offense all year long, and I think this is going to be a great defense all year long. And I'm not discouraged necessarily by that. If they're down by 7 or 3 points against Detroit and they need to get off the field, and if it's just Swift and Williams and Swift and then Hockenson and all that, and they go and win the game, then I'll be concerned.
You start to get a little concerned.
Of course.
Yeah.
Christmas Day.
Yeah, Christmas Day. And to be honest with you, Thanksgiving Day too.
Christmas
like
Eve
Thanksgiving
right
Day is
now.
going to be
Christmas Eve, yeah.
But maybe it's going to be Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve.
But Thanksgiving is also, I think, going to be a very interesting game. I think when we saw the schedule, we probably thought that's an easy win. Giants are playing some good football. I think that's going to be an interesting game on Thanksgiving and on Christmas Eve.
Don't always play well on Thanksgiving, do they?
No, they've lost 4 in a row.
That's my point. So
They
that
have
might be an
never lost
interesting
5 in a
game.
row.
That might be an interesting game.
Yeah.
They've never lost 5
Thanksgivings in a row.
Hadn't played the Giants in 30 years on Thanksgiving.
Wow.
You have not been to a Giants-Cowboys Thanksgiving
I know.
Day game.
Wow.
Neither have I. But
30 years.
30 years.
Can you name who they played last year?
See,
Last year,
I can't even.
Yeah, that would have been.
I can tell you the 92
Raiders.
game.
Oh, Raiders. I'm sorry, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Las Vegas. It tells you all
yeah.
now. Yeah, Las Vegas.
33-30, something like that.
Something like that.
It was overtime.
That
Wasn't
game
it overtime?
Sucked.
Yeah.
That game just. I felt
A lot
so
of
bad
penalties.
after that
Sean
game.
Hockley
Yeah, that was
decided he
just-
wanted to be the
Right, he wanted to be
guy.
star on Thanksgiving Day. His mom's
Sean,
watching. He wanted his
yeah.
mom to hear his name. And
Dad was like, "Oh, look at my kid calling those penalties."
Yeah, it was
So
it was the
proud.
first flag.
Look at
football
those
game
arms.
I've ever been.
Look at
to.
those arms. All right, thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll get into the Lions defense versus the Cowboys offense.
Got a
So
chance
from
there.
Nick Eatman, from Nick Eatman, Brian Broaddus, Amber Garcia. I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!